Now I would like to invite Dr. Durgesh Tripathi sir. He is from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. Dr. Durgesh Tripathi is a founding faculty member of University School of Mass Communication at Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi. He has completed his postdoctorate fellowship from Indian Council Social Science Research in 2017. He has also a recipient prestigious book from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India for his academic contribution. Dr. Tripathi's contribution can be explained in three major research projects and a co-principal investigators of communication and media studies of open education resources. Dr. Tripathi is a coordinator of MOOC course. I would like to invite Dr. Durgesh Tripathi. Please welcome, sir, and proceed.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all, especially Technia Institute of Advanced Studies, Director Dr. Professor Ajay Kumarji, Professor Rasmi Gujarati Madam, who is the Dean of Management Studies Department at Technia Institute of Advanced Studies, who is our premier institution in our IP university. And I would like to mention the director's quote that star-studded academic discourse, and definitely Honorable Vice Chancellor, former Vice Chancellor, Professor from FMS, Director of a regional center of a university. And there are so many intellectuals, scholars, professors, and students who have already been joined this very relevant contemporary seminar, e-webinar, or a conference on the virtual platform. I would like to constrain my basic understanding, knowledge, and experience related with the digital education, related with the online education, related with the online engagement, or we may say blended kind of teaching, learning, understanding. There are so many speakers of this very prestigious e-webinar. They have stressed already about the management, implementation, and about to go, and what will be the way forward to reach for the success of this NEP. I would like to constrain about digital platforms, digital education, and about the flipped classroom opportunities that have given in national education. Yeah, it's most awaited policy decision by the present government, but they have already implemented so many important points. It will be the digital education earlier. I would like to mention one major policy decision done by this government or the previous NDA government. It will be the EPG Pathshala. EPG Pathshala is an initiative of the Ministry of Human Resource Development under its national mission. I would like to stress national mission on education through ICT, Information Communication Technology, being executed by University Grants Commission. And I would like to request to all of you, please visit this virtual platform, this website of Ministry of Education, in which you can find out more than 20,000 e-text, more than 19,000 video lectures contributed by the stalwart professors of various disciplines, including management, education, basic applied science, and medical science. More than 3,200 experts, professors contributed their best efforts for the digital depository, or we can say the first of its special kind of digital repository from the government of India, from our educationists. More than 30,000 quiz you can find out, and they have been covered more than 70 subjects And I do believe that if you will visit the EPG Pathshala or a site of IncludeNet, you will find out best of its kind video lectures and e-content. New education policy or a national education policy has already been covered so many important points related with the National Research Foundation for the establishment of NRF, NETF, National Education Technology Forum, to enhance the basic capabilities or to build the capacity or for the capacity building of our teachers, who is the backbone of our society for any development, for the development of any society or any national building. So that national education policy has already been stressed on the NETF and the faculty members of our nation. Whereas for the digital education, they have already started the initiative related with the massive open online course. As we know that India has its very distinct kind of geopolitical and geoclimatic situation. We cannot compare the teaching standard, scholars standard with the northeastern states of our country towards the faculty members and the scholars and the students. We cannot compare with the teaching, imparting, understanding, knowledge of the professor capital of our country towards the J&K or a Ladakh region or a coastal areas of our country. But it's a digital divide can be overcome with the digital inclusion policy. We may debate on digital exclusion and digital inclusion policy matter. But I do believe that with the use of massive open online course or a EPG Pathshala, overcome the lackness related with the equal opportunity for the every students and for education to everyone. It's a policy matter of our country or for any society. And I do believe that with the use of some digital technologies, online platforms, blended kind of teaching, learning, pedagogy, we should achieve our goal for the equality in our education, for equal opportunity to everyone, and education to everyone of our primary goal of our society and our education system in our country. Yeah, we must congratulate to everyone who have been contributed their best efforts to formalize the national education policy for our country. It's the most awaited policy, as I said earlier. After 34 years of waiting period, we have found that and we have conceptualized our national education policy for the same. We have so many things related with to discuss and to showcase and to share my experience related with the open educational resources that I have contributed my best efforts as a co-principal investigator for communication and media studies of more than crores of the projects of the government of India for EPG Pathshala and for massive open online course MOOCs, who is the first MOOC course of Delhi NCR, who has been offered by University School of Mass Communication, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University as a massive open online course MOOC. And already they have, government have been started their engagement with the digital education, online pedagogy, or a new innovative kind of pedagogy to build up a new innovative society. And there are so many points to be discussed, but as far as we are running against the time, so that I would like to request to Director Professor Ajay Kumar ji, Professor Rasmi Gujarati Madam, and all the professors of this panel. It's a very prestigious panel, I can say, and we can discuss more on this issue in a later on. if you have permit us to discuss on a spacious time, we can say, then we can discuss again on the left point, or we have left behind this this presentation or interaction of this national webinar. I would like to thank you again. Must congratulate to everyone that you have been a part of very prestigious, very contemporary national e-webinar or a webinar of this national education policy of our country. Thank you again to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Durgesh Tripathi, sir. You have given your very important time to us, and you have highlighted lot of things related with the new education policy which has been declared by the government, and hope that after you all eminent speakers highlighted, we will get lot of benefits and learn lot of things from you. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir is having very good MOOCs program on the development learning. So I expect the student to join that MOOCs program on the from the site of SWAYAM portal and get that certificate from sir.
I would like to share one more thing, that Society and Media, my MOOC course, has been accredited in the all-time top 100 global MOOC course by the independent international organization Class Central.
Congratulations, sir, for that. And it's a feather and cap in the IP industry. And
Yeah.
all of the students of the mass communication are going to be benefited out of that. So
Yeah, definitely.
thank you, sir. Thank you for your words.
Our next speaker, Dr. Jasween Kaur, is former chairperson and head of department of the University Business School, Guru Nanak Dev University. She has an academic experience of 25 years. She is an active member on various editorial boards. She has numerous research publications in various national and international journals of repute and has won awards for her research work. Dr. Jasween also provides support in different women empowerment activities. I request you, ma'am, to please address the audience.
On the onset, I appreciate the efforts of Technica Institute for this particular webinar. I always feel whenever there is a policy change or there is any change, there is a lot of inhibitions and fears, but I feel fear is not the solution to any challenge. And that was the reason, maybe it took 34 years for the new education policies to reform itself. And it was 1986, the old policy came into existence, and it was modified a little in 1992. But then it could not make much of changes later on. And then I believe in 2016, the evolution of this particular framework for this particular policy came, and on the grounds of innovating the education system, this particular procedures and started, and framework was started, and it took about a year and a half to frame it, and probably then in 2017 a committee was constituted to look into the challenges and the opportunities of the advantages and disadvantages, and finally in 2019 it was made public for reviews and comments and feedback. And if you all remember, we used to get information from our institutes to give our views and feedback to UGC or to institutes for this particular policy. Having said that, it came into existence and finalized on 29th of July 2020. And it took almost all this time, about 4 or 5 years in the initial nascent stage of giving birth to this particular new setup, where initially there was National Policy of Education, then the new national NEP, that is National Education Policy, came into existence. I value the opinions of all the learned panelists and experts here, and I appreciate, of course, the efforts, as I said, of the institute. But I totally agree and vouch for all the views of the people who said that, you know, whenever we talk about any policy change, we cannot, you know, squeeze it in a time period of discussion. Having said that, it is very important to give our views over a period of time to understand this particular change which is happening, what are the advantages and or the prospective opportunities and prospective challenges. This policy is going to impact all the stakeholders. It is going to impact the teachers, the students, the institutes, the governors, everybody. So it is important to understand who are the end consumers, the students. Any change which happens, the acceptability is an issue, but we cannot forget the old proverb which says a new order changes yielding place to the new. So we have to keep our efforts going, and we have to keep change is dynamic, change has to happen. The Ministry of Higher Education, now it has become the Ministry of Education, it focused on 5 important parameters when it talked about national education policy. It was access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. The focus of making a virtual hub, the knowledge as a virtual hub or knowledge as a knowledge hub, because as I heard Dr. Durgesh Tripathi, and I totally agree with him that, you know, especially in 2020, post-COVID, during the COVID times and post-COVID times, ICT has become a very important platform for learning, and virtual learning has been an important aspect. And we also in our institutes, we encourage our students to go for MOOC courses. And I've seen Dr. Durgesh, I've seen the ePathshala platform, and I've also made a contribution to that services marketing. That is a management, I think, module I've written, and the videos and the text of that. So having said that, you know, it was a good platform as teachers also to evaluate ourselves, to contribute to academia and research, and as for students also, because if I'm teaching services marketing strategy to my students, I add on my videos of the EPG Pathshala platform to add on to the learning and knowledge. So when I talked about when we talk about making a vibrant knowledge hub, a vibrant knowledge epicenter, the knowledge, the education system in India, the 5 parameters which are being focusing is access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Access, as you all, we all know that, you know, reaching to the nookest corner of the country, reaching to all the areas, and of course the virtual platforms will help us, the ICT will help us in doing them. When we talk about equity, equity means going from urban to rural, and of course to the backward areas. The gender sensitization is there, reaching to education to all. And you know, whenever we talk about policy changes, I always feel when we are framing it, we put that, and if you must have seen the national education policy guidelines, there's a huge pages. But you know, the implementation, as Dr. Karamji and all the experts, and Dr. Ravi, Dr. H.K. Singh, Dr. Durgesh, Dr. Vijay, they all pointed out, you know, implementation becomes an important aspect. So equity implementation is very important. Then affordability, a lot of funding, scholarships are being floated, and there is a lot of things in the pipeline. And of course, for access, open learning education is there. Open universities are being set up. There are a lot of universities which are being, initially there used to be concept of open schools, but now open universities are there. So the purpose is, you know, we used to have only 1 or 2 universities like Indira Gandhi National Open University, but then in every state we are opening up this university, so to give the reach to all. And I'll come to quality later because that is the most important aspect, but I'll talk about accountability. When talking about accountability, of course, there's governance is there. There is going to be performance appraisal. There used to be performance appraisal. We have been doing performance indicators as well and performance appraisals, but there's going to be light but tight regulations, and that is very important when we talk about implementation part. And the most important part when we talk about the 5 parameters of this implementation is quality. Now, quality is not only quality of teaching, quality is quality of involvement of all the stakeholders. And here I would like to point out, when we talk about students here, and we were talking about all the acceptability of MOOC courses, as Dr. Ajay said. Now, I would like to point out here, the students' acceptability is very, very, poor in all these things. You know, even if we tell the students to go in for all these new platforms, their mental orientation is not there. So I feel education, the prime focus of any education should be mental development and mental orientation. Anybody can succeed without degrees, but none without common sense. And the education system should help us in enlightening the vision of the students and enlightening the mental orientation of the development of the mental orientation of the students. As Dr. Ravi was saying that students, they are, whether it is a school students or their college students or university, they do not feel like coming to the university. And also we all hear many a times, there is all theory, no practicals. Normally we hear that. And when we try to do practicals, when we conduct a lot of events or orientation programs, or maybe training programs or seminars or practical exercises or training, the involvement and the forthrightness of the students is very, very less. And I'm talking of the majority. I'm not talking of the of certain benchmark institutes, and there's a mixed bag in every institute which is in a state or in a national level. In a class of 100, 10% would be different, 30-40% would be different, and rest of the bag will be there. So involvement of all and development of all is very important. So when we're talking of all these changes, when we're talking of changes bringing 5+3+4 system, all these changes can have actual impact when we realize the grassroots reality that is making the students acceptable to learning. We are many a time students, they come for degrees, even if Ravi Andar it's been really always really overwhelming gesture by Dr. Ravi whenever he says that she has been my teacher. Thank you very much for saying that, Dr. Ravi. But he remembers, whenever we talk about taking education like MBA or any other degrees, majority of students come for taking a degree. Many wants to go for jobs, or many wants to do their own business. But actual learning, many students they are not coming for actual learning, for actual development. But that does not mean that there aren't people there. I have live examples. Even last year there was a student with us in University Business School, Guru Nanak Dev University. The student had cleared CAT exam. He was supposed to go to IIM Bangalore, but he stayed with us. But he said no. Of course, one reason was that he wanted to be with the family. That was one reason. But then he could have just gone. But then he stayed with us. So there are people who are there. But again, when we talk about another example, do we trust our education system? I ask all the academia here, when we want to send our students for higher education after +2 or after graduation, we look for foreign universities, right? So are we all trusting the system? So that is why the change has to come from intrinsic level to the extrinsic level. So we're talking of these policies, they're changing the system, but what about the individual orientations and trust and commitment towards the system? So for that has to be rigorous. Just implementing policies cannot bring change. So I would say the quality aspect is very important, but quality is a relative term. I do agree. And when we're talking about all kind of autonomy and Atmanirbhar Bharat, all these abhiyans are there, and we are giving autonomy to colleges, but then, there are grassroots realities we all know. So we cannot say that, whenever we talk about these platforms, there is an absolute term. There is a theory of relativity which is there, and there is a relative situation, circumstances for everybody. But yes, a flexibility in the system is important. But some of the institutes, they were already having, if I talk about, we were talking about multidisciplinary platforms. If we talk about BITS and IITs, a science graduate could take management courses or the social sciences courses, which was not there in our system. But then making it acceptable is also important. And then, of course, when the MOOCs came, and the credit-based evaluation system came, these things has evolved over a period of time that anybody can take as an interdisciplinary system, but not as the core subjects. Why is that? Because see, if we talk about from the management perspective or the management courses, we have to create a basket of subjects. So we as teachers, we are afraid to create basket of subjects. One, because how to get faculty under the management for all, because there is always difficulty to get faculty, because I was chairing the department for about 3.5 years, and then maybe 6 months was also earlier for a short period of time as a temporary. So about 4 years of there was a huge department. We were having about 1100 to 1200 students. We were running about 6-7 different types of specialized courses under management programs. And I used to have only 4 or 5 permanent faculty and about 26-27 ad hoc or part-time or lecture basis faculty. So so it was very difficult that, you know, to get the authorities to give us the faculty. So, and then also we are afraid of the timetable. Whenever we think of giving more options, more subjects in the basket for the benefit of students, that we give more options to them, the timetable is going to, you know, go not between 9 to 5, and all the faculty is afraid. And, you know, because why? It's not that we are afraid, it's because the system is such. There is no additional perks, there is no additional benefits. You know, if we're talking of India and UK alignment, now if you think there, one, research is given a lot of importance in this institute. So people who are active in research, they lighten on their teaching schedules, which is not here in India, except few IIMs are there. You know, there's certain. Then second, people who are giving teaching different orientations of teaching, you know, or they are having erratic schedules, or they are having schedules of heavy schedules on a particular days, they will be lightened on few. Maybe there is a 3 days teaching in a week, so 3 days teaching, they can have heavy schedules. But no, we want to be in the tight frame of 9 to 5. We want our schedules to be within the time frame of 9 to 5. We want our timetables to be there, and we want to adjust everything. So when we have to talk about these changes of new education policy, we will have to think about changing the intrinsic levels of flexibility in our own mindsets as teachers as well, if we talk about giving to the students and making their mental development. So when I talk about all this fragmented setup and affordability, and of course one important aspect which I was hearing is that, you know, of course it is there in the national educational policy, there's an option of exit policy when I'm talking of the system of 4 undergraduate courses. Now, talk to the institutes who are thriving on the subsistence level, or they are not able to, you know, able to even come to the costs. We're talking of the institutes which are doing well, but there are certain colleges and certain institutes who are able to actually meet their basic costs. They're not even earning profits there. So if such exit policy, you know, hypothetically, we were already there. If we talk about certain courses which were vocational courses, there is an exit policy after 2 years. If you're in a vocational BVOC program, you have an exit policy after 1 year, and then 2 year, and then degree. So what used to happen is that by the end of the 3 years term, there used to be very less students, and how much, you know, fees will be attained by the colleges, and how to because they have kept a teacher for a particular course. So even if there are 3 students left in the 3rd year, you have to keep the teacher, but how to meet to the cost? So we have to look into these grassroots realities also when we talk about all these changes. But having said that, I would always feel whenever any policy decisions take place, whenever any change take place, there is going to be discussion points. Yes, that is very important. And but of course, we should not fear change, because that is not a solution. We should look towards the intrinsic changes, grassroots realities, and we cannot have a same absolute platform for all. We need to be relative in making the changes, so that each institute's the autonomy, they can work according to and adapt according to the change. And most important thing, when I say that rules should not be followed in the letter, but in the spirit. That is going to be very, very important, that we used to talk from school time in all through stories. But till today, whenever we talk about education system, we follow rules in the letter, but not in the spirit. But that does not mean we undermine the regulatory part, we undermine the governance part, we undermine the autonomy part. But yes, the Atmanirbharta means we need to be accountable also to whatever we are doing. So that level of trust as teachers is very important for us in the education system, as educational institutions, as administrators, and then ultimately we can inculcate that kind of mental development and mental orientation with our students. So I thank all the dignitaries here for having a healthy discussion here, and we could share these thoughts. And I appreciate the efforts of Dr. Ajay and Dr. Rashmi for giving us this platform. And I hope this discussion brings another zone of discussions in the later future discussions. Thank you very much.
Rashmi madam, some faculty member would like to ask some queries from the expert on certain clarification on certain issues, because they have raised, Jasween Kaur has raised very valid point. Dr. Durgesh Tripathi has also raised some valid point. In the morning itself, Dr. Karamjit has also raised some valid, very collaborative and valid points. All some faculty member has asked me that can we be able to
Yes,
ask that.
I think we can go ahead. I think, but I don't know about, we can ask all the experts. I think.
Yeah, madam, please, you can put up the open session for that part.
Myself, Professor Dr. Amin Shah. My question is open. I would like to expect some interaction with this star-studded panel. When we talk about the multidisciplinary dimension and setting target of the 50% GER up to in the next 15 years, it becomes essential to have many more higher education institutions, right? And quality delivery of teaching, especially with the quality faculty members. Can it be achieved, especially the quality learning without 1:10 or hardly 1:15 PTR, but it is 29 around at present. Moreover, around 32,000 plus faculty posts are vacant in the university and college, perhaps more than that. So is it possible to achieve the GER in the next 15 years? And even if we achieve, can be in position to deliver the quality learning, as rightly Dr. Jasween Ma'am talking about. Quality learning important. Moreover, when we talk about the national education policy, one of the aim and objective of the national education policy to influx more and more entrepreneurs in the society so that there could be less burden on the government to provide the government job. And this has been observed that all those developed countries are having a lot many entrepreneurs in their society and they are developing. I think one of the most important, the hidden objective behind this NEP is that. So my one question is that is it possible, because I think there might be the lapses in the institution, as Shrotia sir rightly told about the 80% the policy fails because of the poor implementation. So this is the one question. What may I have this some guidance on this? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your observation and pointing out that particular observation. As all the experts, they have given their viewpoint in the discussion as well. It is I personally feel quality is a relative term. Quality cannot be an absolute term, because see, for delivering quality, you need to have infrastructure. So sitting in Delhi or in Mumbai cannot compare with a tier 2 city, and tier 2 city cannot be compared with tier 3 city, and similarly tier 3 city cannot be compared with a Meri Bori school. You know, you must have a Meri Bori school. We apni bori leke baitho ped ke niche aur padhai karo. So you cannot do that, and we need to understand. See, it is important. It is very important to understand the intricate realities. See, and I would like to, of course, I'm not digressing from that thing, but I would like to bring out the empathic point here. When you talk about this COVID time, we all teachers, especially in the institutes we were in the permanent jobs and we were getting regular salary. Think of the people who had nothing to eat. I'm not talking of migrant labor. I'm taking of even of the people who were in contractual jobs, people who were in the salary job. And I have seen examples here, even in Delhi NCR, big multinational companies, they had to retrench their staff, even permanent staff, even with 15 and 20 years of experience. And that has happened with my family also. My parents are in Delhi, Noida, and I've seen the examples there. So having said that, the infrastructure, the availability of money is very important, but that cannot undermine the intention of quality. I always feel as teachers, as academicians, as institutions, or as nation builders, it is very, very important for us to give our best. You know that you have given your best to your capability. अगर मैंने अपनी क्षमता से पूरा अपना योगदान दे दिया है, I know in my heart I've given my best, and then everybody will know, even the students, even the people around, they know that yes, you have given the best. But we know the examples are there in our education system where many a times the teachers, especially in the government schools, in the rural belts, they go and they're not contributing good enough. But that does not mean this pertains to all. This does not pertain to all. There's no uniform statement. It is that, and even in our urban areas also, many a times you feel that some teachers log more in research and teaching and academic than the. So my point here is, when we talk about quality, one, it is your intention to contribute should be there as a teacher. Second, the institutional support should be there, and then of course the governance support there. Like we talk about, that India has to become a defense power nation, and we have to keep our boundaries sealed. We have to keep our enemies at bay. Similarly, and we're spending huge amount of money for that. Similarly, when we have to talk about reforming our education system, we have to contribute money for its development. Like we are talking of health and sanitation in the past few months. With the health and sanitation used to be important earlier also, but it has become all the more important in the past few months because of COVID. And we have seen examples of countries like New Zealand and where the system was very effective. There the effect was very, very less of the COVID-19. So when we talk about quality should be, as I will always say, then when we talk about implementation of any policy, involvement of all the stakeholders is also important. And when I talk about quality, I will not undermine the involvement of students. Students, their intention to involve, we cannot force people to do that. We cannot force students to do that. Even the child who is going into who's a 3-year-old child, we are staying in a awakened era now, and even a 3-year-old child who is a millennium child or a generation Z child, he knows what he wants. Of course, he knows what he wants, but does not mean he knows it all, but he knows. So his interest cannot be forced upon. His interest has to be inculcated, and that has to be told to him or inculcated with him within the over a period of time. And we have to make the students realize that theory without practice is meaningless, but the practice without theory is also irrelevant. That does not mean all practice, So theory without practice is meaningless, but theory without practice is I know it is very important, and we do a lot of things for delivering quality. We use a lot of modes to doing well, but talking only of practice without theory is nil. So fundamental knowledge, fundamental foundations of knowledge is very important. So for making quality, we need to have infrastructure support. We need to have support of the of upper education level, administration levels, and of course their own attitudes and involvement has to be high. For that, I think I would say the flexi teaching curriculum should also be there, because what is happening is there's too much load on the teachers that you're teaching 4 credits in a week, and you're taking 4-5 classes every day. So what is happening is maybe that kind of quality. So if you lot of institutes which are there, which are following the pattern of Western countries, they're taking rather than taking a class of 50 minutes or 1 hour in a day, they take about 2 hours class in or 3 hours class in 2 days a week, and they contribute more, because other time they can do for preparations and other research works and other academic and personal work. So that is how the flexi teaching schedule should also be there for bringing quality. And I give the platform to other experts for their inputs.
My next question is, sir, including you, my question is, because what I feel the aim and objective of this, I already told about this higher education policy is to have more and more expert, skill-oriented, skill-setting, the expert in the market, the entrepreneurs in the market, so that we could become really Atmanirbhar. And so what I feel about that we must use and utilize the practitioner, the industry expert, the corporate expert in the role of the teachers, part-time or full-time. They must be given, institution must be allowed to make them a part of the cadre ratio. We are running college, we have pressure about the cadre ratio also. If we could link the living this legend or the practitioner from the corporate, the online courses also, in physical mode also, So there might be some lessen the burden of the cadre ratio, and our students could be given more and more and great input in the class. And it will again supplement my this idea too. One of the thing given by Justin ma'am, the acceptance of the students. I think this is quality teaching. The students are also very smart. They know that which class we are getting what. If they don't get anything, they won't accept teacher, and they are not. So this is my question. Can we not, our government should not think about to link more and more these managers or the experts or the Bollywood or any other, because in mass communication expert, the reporters, journalists, to lessen the burden of the cadre ratio and given chance to teach our students directly. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Professor Jha, sir, we do agree with you related with your understanding to accommodate and to engage the practitioner as well as the teachers.
Exactly.
Because in the mass communication and media field, and especially in the management also, there are so many things related with the debatable issues related with the academicians and the professionals. And we know very well about that. The media and management streams are more or less practical oriented and the theory oriented. If we will mix up rich mix with professional and the traditional one, I think it will be better to co-opt and accommodate the best practices for the future engagement and future understanding and future development of this stream, we can see. And I would like to express my personal understanding and observation related with your topic, related with your understanding, related with your question, that there are so many international recognized institution of eminence has already been adopted and started the course on various streams, themes, and topics related with the professional, related with the theory streams, theory topics. If we talk about already the United Nations Development Center, UNDC, has already been started. There are so many courses related with the international diplomacy, and anyone can join. There is no restrictions of age bar, education bar, or a region bar. And I do congratulate and I do accommodate. I would like to thanks to the professors and policy makers that they have already started their basic understanding towards your topic, towards your question, that if a scholar, if a learner want to join a course on a professional or as well as from the theory topics, they can join on the open platform. There are so many universities like MIT, Harvard X, MIT institutions. There are so many academic institutions. There are so many universities has already been started their courses on the open platform, or we can say it's open courseware that they have joined by the so many professionals. There are so many academicians as well. And I do believe that it's a digital platform or an online platform can accommodate anyone for their any topic, for their any understanding. And after completion of the course, they may have, intelligently they have to choose the course, the practical one or a theory one. But nowadays, or I do believe that I'm very much fortunate in the coming days, in the upcoming years, the institution will start a course, online course, like MOOC course or a module of theory paper, theory topics, as well as the professional topics, professional matters related with the module. And professional modules, professional topics can be launched by the professionals, senior professionals of the stream. So I must congratulate, we must congratulate to new education policy and policy makers that they have started your understanding in a conceptual way as a national education policy. And in the upcoming years, we may see the changes in the open platform.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Rashmi, can I add to it a little?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I really appreciate the efforts of and the inputs of Dr. Tripathi. And yes, we do. And Dr. Jha, you've really pointed out the problem that we normally face in our institutes is that, you know, when we talk about practice, but involvement of people from the practical field, you know, there is not much of involvement is, especially in the government setups. In private institutes, we have a lot of visiting faculty from the people from the practice and people from the corporate sector. But in the public sector, this involvement is not to greater extent. Yes, there is there. When we talk about in curricular development, it is there. But as far as, you know, involvement into regular teaching, it is not there. We call people for expert lectures, but then it is not there. Having said that, you know, this can be done. This can be improvised. But having said that, we need to one more important aspect into this is where the grassroots reality. I will again point out here, Dr. Jha. You know, we all know that when we talk about involvement of people of practice, we need to understand, you know, that the involvement should bring out effective results. I've seen examples that people from practice, they come and they talk things which are generic, which are important. But, you know, when we talking of professional inputs and professional courses, you know, and professional involvement and talking professional topics, then they have to rigorize their lecture base into bringing theory into practice and practice building with theory. Because as I said, we need practice with theory, but we just talk about, you know, only general talk, and we do not authenticate with the theory, with the concepts, with the background of theory, that becomes nil. So the involvement of practical people from the corporate is really important, but that has to be done at a rigorous level and in of course for quality level. Another important aspect is we can read all the other courses are there where we design the courses and people go for training programs, or you know, or the last semester is for the practical corporate exposures and training programs. But you know, we design the courses, we make them practical orientations. That was already there, and it's going to be all the more happening in the new education policies. But when we do that, the amount of time, of course, we understand the problems and intricacies of the corporate working, but the amount of time given by people of practice to the students is not that much high. Because whenever our students come back to us, they said, you know, they gave us a topic, we prepared a report and we are presenting it, but that learning input is not very high. Some of the students that do well, they get the jobs also, they get placed also. So it does not mean that, you know, it is all not happening effectively. It is happening, but to make it more effective, the involvement of people from the corporate, maybe the institutional industry interfaces, making academia industry interface more effective. The involvement of people from the corporate level should be at high end with more high commitment and involvement. Similarly, the people from academia should also be given chance to go to the industry for certain exposure and understandings. We just teach in a four walls, or we do our understandings by dint of our own research. Of course, NAC ratings are there, NRF ratings are there, and for NRF and NAC, the institutes are focusing on research. But getting into, and you know, many a times you hear corporate people saying, okay, what in reality is not, you're not teaching. I don't totally agree with this, but I cannot disagree also. But I don't totally not agree also, because see, what we are talking, what we take our case studies, what we take examples from what is happening around us is important. But having small stints of teachers going also for short period of time for certain courses will give them more exposure. So I think flexibility in the system is very important, and bringing corporate into the system has to be done more rigorously rather than just bringing quality in the education.
Inculcating the entire setup of the cadet issue. The partially what I'm talking about, once we decide, we need to realign our courses also, that what courses we need to assign to such people and what courses should not. It's great. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much.
It is very categorically pointed out that the teaching and research are the two sides of the same coin. So teaching without research and research without teaching has got no existence. So Madam has very well pointed out that the theory part is very important, on which the base of practical will be there. And without practical, theory will cannot be substantiated. So if we are talking of people coming from the professional world and they're grooming up, but they don't know about the other part of the story, that is the theory part. And the learner has to clear both part, theory part as well as practical part, to make the mosaic very clear, so that he can be able to understand the full picture of the whole scenario, what is exactly is all about, and then he can be worked upon on those areas. So my summation is that the students, the learners, will be interacting. This new economic policy is going to open up a new gamut of operations for us to see the things in, transform the things in time to come. And this, we feel that we are going to make a country better tomorrow for our students and our children in time to come. And we can be able to make them a good citizen for a country who will be contributing in a positive way for the nation's GDP. Our ultimate is that every person who is having existence on this earth is a creation of God, and he has to be meaningfully employed for the time to come and for the nation's GDP, and contribute for the nation's GDP in a positive manner. And if he is not recognized, then God is going to open that part. But if he is there on earth, that means we have to take care of that each and every citizen of the country, each and every person of the country, and he should be trained enough to give good part to the whole GDP and whole next generation. And in this way, we can be able to make our learning system more, you can say, empathetic towards their requirement of the what is this basic essence of this policy, new education policies are all about, to make it towards sensible towards fellow citizens, to be able to understand the pain of other fellow citizens, and to work on with new dimensions in time to come, and to make our country great again. Just like Trump has been saying, make America great again, we have to look to make India great again. सोने की चिड़िया जो पहले था, दोबारा बनाने के लिए ये बहुत ही जरूरी है कि हम इस न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी की nitty-gritty जो salient features हैं उसको imbibe करें और system में उतारें.
One thing more to say you, that Dr. Jasveer has said very well, that today in our education system, teachers have a lot of load, and they are focusing on the 4 lecture and then other administrative works, and for that we are not focusing on the quality education. And really it is a very important to give a quality education. As when Dr. Jasween was explaining this, I remember my one foreigner friend. He is in the university, and he is taking only two-day class. One day he is taking 4 lecture or 5 lecture, and another day he is taking only 3 lecture, and rest days he is free to do a research work, and they have a lot of time to focus on the research work and to prepare their study. And I think when I talk with him and he say that I am free now, I have only 2 days lecture and rest I am doing my preparation of the studies, that time I think that yes, from where the quality will become, because always we are focusing that there should be a quality, and from where the quality will become. So the teacher need to do the preparation for the study. So if our government is focusing on this type of new education policies, and they are bringing this new education policy, then it will be much better. Another thing that Dr. Jasveer ma'am has said, that the teacher, yes, I also agree with ma'am that we teacher are the creator of the nation. If we are giving a good education to our student, we should ask ourselves if we are satisfied whatever we are giving to our students. So that is very important to us, that we should become a teacher by a passion. I have seen a lot of time the teachers are not giving time to do their study. So that is also very important for the faculty members and teachers to focus on that. Jasvi madam, you have focused, Dr. Durgesh sir has focused lot of things, and it is very important if we are going to implement on that, if the government is focusing on that, and these things are going, and the new education policy is coming, maybe it will be very helpful for our students and our young generation who are going to become our future and going to handle our nation.
Can I ask one question if time permits you?
Yes, madam, why not?
I am Dr. Vandana Raghav, and as a student of economics, there is one question in my mind related to the new economic policy. I have read one article in the Hindi newspaper. पूरे देश के सरकारी स्कूलों का निजीकरण होगा, and the data which they had supported in this is कि वर्ष 2010-2014 के दौरान सरकारी स्कूलों की संख्या में 13,500 की वृद्धि हुई, लेकिन इसमें दाखिला लेने वाले बच्चों की जो संख्या है, सरकारी स्कूल में जो दाखिला लेने वाले बच्चों की संख्या है, वो डिक्रीज हुई है बाय द नंबर ऑफ 13,500. एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड जो निजी स्कूलों में दाखिला लेने वाले बच्चों की संख्या इंक्रीज हुई है 1,13,00,000, और जो प्राइवेट स्कूल में बच्चों की जो इंक्रीज हुआ है इन द एडमिशंस, इट इज 1,85,00,000. तो जिससे कि सरकारी स्कूलों के ऊपर जो एक्सपेंडिचर गवर्नमेंट का हो रहा है, इट इज इंक्रीजिंग because the government is trying to give education to the masses. Especially they are focusing on the weaker economic weaker section of the society. So iske liye government they are taking two things together. One, they are giving more emphasis on the government schools, and on the other hand, in all the private schools, it is mandatory to take 25% of the economic weaker section of the society. If suppose the government decides to privatize all the education, especially to the we can say the government schools. So is there any policy in the new education policy to give support to this weaker section of the society?
Yes, I can. Madam Vandana's question is about the future of the government schools. And I think she's saying that government is spending a lot of money. This is what you're trying to ask?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. On the one hand, government is spending a large amount of money on the education of the weaker section in the form of the government school.
So, so far as the provisions of policy.
Apart from this article, I also came to know from some another articles also that now government is trying to reduce the expenditure on education in the school education as well as on the higher education also. So I just wanted to know, is there any provision in the new education policy to give support to this weaker section? What are the policies so that they can give the support?
Yes, Dr. Vandana. So far as the provisions of this new education, national education policy rather is concerned, it is, rather enhancing the budget for the education sector. Right now, we are spending somewhere around 4% of the GDP on the education sector. And as stated in the policy, government will be increasing the money, from 4% of the GDP to 6% of GDP. Okay, so that much money government has, planned to spend on the education sector. And this is what we, people were asking for since quite a long time, because in case we look into the data at the international level, most of the developed countries of the world, they are in, almost 6% of the GDP, they are also spending on the education sector. But then, the news which you are quoting, is it pertaining to the central government planning, or is it pertaining to the state government planning? Because state government, this education is falling in the concurrent list. State governments, they are also spending money on the school education. So in case this news is talking about, this education policy, so there's nothing in the education policy which is actually reducing the expenditure on the school education.
Can I add, Dr. Ravi, here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. See, what was the challenge of the previous education policy was reaching to the socio-economic classes, although the government schools were there. But if you see the example here, if you take the example of the labor class around here, I happened to talk to my domestic helper once, and I asked कि आपका बच्चा कौन से स्कूल में जाता है? She said it's going to a private so and so school. I said you have a government school in your village. Why are you sending? So one reason was this, the accountability of quality of teaching, so that was one challenge. And secondly, also reaching to the nook and corner to the socioeconomically backward classes was another challenge, which the new national education policy, which is there, NEP is trying to overcome, because it is going to give as I talked about, giving access and equity and inclusion of a lot of scholarships are there. And even the private, we used to talk only of government institutes or government schools, but the new education policy says, or the national education policy says, that the private and the philanthropic universities, which can, there are a lot of private universities which are going for CSR, which are backed up by corporates, and there are a lot of philanthropic universities. They can offer scholarship to the underprivileged classes. So see, it is not that reducing the funds, there is going to be multiple channels of giving the funds, because see, what was happening is, when we go into particular phase, they're likely to be pilferages and loopholes in that particular system. So as to plug that system, the national education policy is trying to multifaceted the system so that it can reach better to the socioeconomic and unprivileged classes. So this was the reason behind it, and for the changes implementation. So what we are talking today is all the policy changes, because it is just about 3 months back that this policy has come to existence. Although we're talking of research universities, we are talking of open universities, we are talking of skill universities, but things are happening, things are in the pipeline. But yes, ultimately, how much it reaches will have to be into the flexibility of the system. We need to make the system flexible. We need to make the system more rigorous, more adaptable to the changes in the society, because as I gave you the example, even the labor class does not want to send the children to the government schools where the education is free, or even if they go, they stop after 5th or 8th class. So checking this grassroots reality is very important for implementation or to achieve the ultimate, to reap the ultimate benefits of the education system in long run.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you
I
so
would
much.
like to say one thing into this, because the second part of your query was, government schools, they are dying actually, because the number of admission going into those schools is actually reducing.
Yes, sir.
No, what is happening in the government schools? The government is not trying to, close down these schools. Government is rather is increasing the spending in these schools. Government is, introducing these schemes like midday meal scheme. Government is providing dresses to the students. Government is providing, food and books also. All these things government is doing. But what is happening, particularly in the government schools, the quality of education is not improving. Why so? Because it is not because the teachers they are not good, they are not teaching to the students, but I feel the teachers, I am talking particularly about the state of Punjab, they are overburdened with other activities. Like in case elections are coming, they'll be put on duty. In case it is about cooking of midday meals, they will be cooking. So all these things, teachers, they say that we are busy there, but what and when to provide education to the students. So that is what is happening.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now I would like to invite Dr. Rashmi Gujarati, Dean Management TIES, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Kinika. At last, I would like to give a big thanks to Dr. Karamjit sir, Dr. H.K. Singh sir, Dr. Ravinder Singh, Dr. Vijay Shrotia, Dr. Jasveer Kaur, and Dr. Durgesh Tripathi. You all has given us your very important time in your busy schedule, and all have enlightened a lot of points related with the National Education Policy 2020, which is going to be implemented in forthcoming. We can see here that there is a lot of challenges and opportunities in this new education policy. Lot of the points, biggest points, my speakers has highlighted about that what new education policies are going to become as like a single regulatory for the higher education institution, second multiple entry and exit options in the degree courses. There is a 4-year courses, low stake board exam, and common entrance test for the exam of the university. Another also there is a points which is going to be highlighted like this, that academic bank of the credit, multiple entry, exit, and foreign universities are also open to come in India and do the collaboration with our education, and they can be highlight, and they will be get collaboration, as well as students and faculty mobility. We can exchange student program and faculty program from with the top world ranked universities. Education technology is also be going to be formed, and as Dr. Jasween ma'am has said that an autonomous body, the National Educational Technology Forum, will be created to provide a big platform for the free exchange of idea and use of technology to enhance the learning of assessment, planning and administration. As Dr. Jasween said that only the theoretical is not important. Practical work should be also there, and that will be enhance the quality of the education. In the new education policy, a lot of things has been discussed by the ministry, which has been education ministry. They have highlighted higher education must be enabled to develop of the enlightened, social conscious, knowledgeable and skilled nation that can be found and implemented on the robust solution on its own problem. The purpose of the quality higher education is more than to creation of a great opportunity for the individual employment. It presents the key to more vibrant social engagement, cooperative communities, and happier, comprehensive culture, productive, innovative, progressive, like this to be make a good nation. There is a lot of problems which we are going to be faced through these new policies. There were several fragment higher education ecosystem, less emphasis on the development of the cognitive skills and learning outcome, separation of the disciplines with earlier specialization and streaming of students into a narrow area of study, and limited access, particularly in social economical disadvantaged areas with the few higher education institutions that teach in the local languages. And I think that if local languages can be implemented in higher education also, that will be also very benefit for us. Because I have seen that when we go out of the country, we can see that if in our India, our language, Hindi language is not given the preferred to the students. And we are focusing on the English language. But when we go in the out of the country, I have seen that the country are using their own language, and due to their own language, their students are able to explain everything very well. I have seen in my MBA students also a lot of time that they have an answer to give when the placement companies come. But what happened? Due to lack of the communication, or due to they are not able to explain their views in English, and they don't explain properly in front of the company. So if they should allow to give the answers in their mother tongue, I think that time we can bring a good quality in the market and in the society. Because lot of time then where the lot of discussions are going on, that time if we see that our students can communicate and exchange lot of views with us in our class also when we are teaching, and sometime when we come in our mother tongue language, that time we can see that our student have a good quality. But only the reason is that they have a hesitation to come in another language. As we know that due to British rule, English is very compulsory in our India, and everybody is focusing on English, that this language should be good to know everybody. This is very important, and due to that, we have a skilled students. Our generation have a lot of skills, but maybe some of the problems are there. For that they are not coming up. At last, my big thanks to my Technia Group of Institution, Director Sir, Chairman Sir, and my staff, those who have supported me to organize this webinar. And my big thanks to my all speakers, all have given me your very important time from your busy schedule. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, sir.
next speaker, Professor Dr. Ravi Inder Singh, is a director, Punjab University Regional Center, Ludhiana. He has more than 20 years of teaching experience and more than 10 years of administrative experience. I invite you, sir, to please address the audience.
First of all, good afternoon to all of you. Dr. Karamjit Singh ji, I think he's not there. Professor H.K. Singh, Professor V.K. Shirotia ji, Durgesh Tripathi ji, my teacher, Dr. Jasween Kaur, and my sincere thanks to the Director of Technia, Institute of Technical Studies, Dr. Ajay Kumar, and my thanks to Dr. Rashmi, Dean Management Faculty of the Institute. And I must congratulate the organizing team for such, selecting such an important topic, National Education Policy 2020, which is actually a hot topic for discussion these days. And of course, we being the academicians, we must, discuss, since, the future of the education sector is dependent upon this policy, we must have a detailed discussion and find out, what are the, positive points, what are the, limitations of this policy. And then the most important part actually is of the, implementation of the policy, which we people always remain concerned about. And before me, Professor Karamjit Ji has already talked about, this policy in detail. And then after that, we had, listened to Professor H.K. Singh, the two vice chancellors, one in chair and one the former vice chancellor. And after that, we also had the opportunity to listen to Shri V.K. Shirotia ji. So I planned my talk, but after listening to them, I think most of the points they have been taken, they have been discussed by them in this webinar. I would, I had to change my, this talk. No, this education policy, National Education Policy 2020. I would like to compare it, with the prescription of a doctor. I think these two things are same. A doctor, before, he gives the prescription, he goes into the, investigation part. And then after that, he goes in for the diagnosis. And then after that, he gives the prescription. And after that, the patient has to take the medicine. He will be cured. And, that is, just 20% of it. Prescription of the doctor, and the 20%, is about the implementation part of that prescription. But here, the education policy part, by having this policy, national education policy, I will say 20% of the task is done, and 80% of is dependent upon the implementation part of this policy. I was talking that by having this policy, 20% of the task is done, and the actual the impact of this is actually of this policy is dependent upon the implementation part. And no doubt, this policy is very, very good so far as, the important issues which this policy is talking about. It is talking about the multidisciplinary education scenario. It is talking about equal importance to the academia, to vocational, and to the extracurricular activities. And so far as the multiple exit points given to the student, they are concerned, again, it's a very, very good, I think move which, proposal which has been given in this policy. Because what I've seen during my 20 years of teaching experience, that students after joining a particular course, they always intend to, most of them and most of the time, they intend to shift to the other streams, actually, which was not possible in the earlier scenario. But with this provision coming in, that will become possible for these students to pursue their dreams. So what I see is that, this policy is very, very good. Even the multiple, large scale educational institutions having a strength of 3,000 students, at least, which is proposed in the national education policy, will be able to provide the facilities which are actually needed for the holistic development of the students. But as I was saying, that 80% of this policy, the impact of this policy will depend upon the implementation part. And I feel there's a long way to go. We'll have to, I'm not pessimistic, I'm very, very optimistic, but what I'm trying to say is that we'll have to work very, very hard to get the actual results which we actually are trying to aim to get through this policy. I would like to share some data with you, which actually talks about our, economic parameters, our demographic parameters, and our, quality of the human beings. Actually, through this education, we are trying to improve the quality of human beings only. So what kind of information is available with you, with us, in case we look onto the Human Development Index? So what I see is that among 189 countries of the world, we are ranked at 129th position. So there's a long way to go for us so far as the development of the human sources is concerned. In case we look at the literacy ratio, therein also we find that our literacy rate is somewhere around 77%, whereas the world average is 86%. And the dropout ratio we know in our country is very, very high. So this was about the education. Human Development Index, you can easily measure that through the quality of education which is going on in our country. And then literacy ratio is also telling us about the kind of efforts we are putting in providing education to our people. Then through this policy, we are trying to bring in innovation in the society. In case we look on to the innovation index of our country, among 131 countries of the world, we are ranked at 48th position, comparatively better than Human Development Index. But then again, I will say there's a long way to go for us. And the hunger index in our country, we are ranked at 94th position among 107 countries of the world. And then so far as, this policy is also, giving emphasis on the skill development. In case we look onto the skill development parameter, what we find is that only 5% of our population is skilled. Rest of the 95% of our population is actually unskilled. In case we look into the other developed countries of the world, then USA has got 52% of their population, skilled. And in this percentage in case of Germany, 75%. In case of South Korea, it is 96%. So what I'm trying to say through these parameters, that there's a long way to go for us. I'm not pessimistic. I'm again saying that this policy is very, very good, but to ensure the implementation part of this, to ensure that all the parameters which we are appreciating today being a part of this policy, in case we want to take the real output, then we'll have to work very hard. We'll have to work overnight to make all these things happen. Policy is talking about increasing the gross enrollment ratio, to increase it from somewhere around 26% to 50% by the year 2035. And in case that target is to be achieved, then we need to develop one higher educational institution, one in 1 week, which is a very, very big task. So we'll have to do that in case we want to achieve that gross enrollment ratio of 50%. And besides all these issues, I am a teacher. For the last 20 years, I am into teaching profession. And before that, I was a student. What I see is that we are lagging behind in a big way. Professor Karamjit Singh ji was talking about Indian, particularly the students from Punjab moving abroad. They are going to the foreign countries to, pursue their higher education there. And the rate of the students is very, very high. As per one of the report published in a very, very important newspaper published from the region, Da Tribune, for the 6 months data which they shared in that article, 147,000 students moved out of Punjab in 6 months in the year 2019. And out of 147,000 students, 128,000 were from the Punjab state only. And along with them, 67,000 crore rupees, that money went abroad. And the total budget which we put on higher education system in our country is, I think, somewhere around 90,000 crore rupees. So 67,000 crore in 6 months, and in case we double it for 1 year, so I think somewhere around 1 lakh crore rupees is going out of the country, whereas the budget of the country is less than 1 lakh crore rupees. So we need to put in lot of efforts. So far as education system is concerned, I would like to share, one feeling which I have with me. When a small kid, I've got a son of, who is 7 years old. So when he was to go to the school for the very first day, so my wife used to tell him that, he will find friends there, he will find toys there. And, we used to tell him, something good about the school so that he don't hesitate in, moving into the school. But one day, on the very first day, he went inside the school happily. But from the second day, third day, fourth day, what I found is that, he was always crying that I'm not interested in going to the school. So what I'm trying to say through this example is that I have shared the story for a school, of a school going kid. But I feel that even in the higher education institutions, these students, though they are coming, but many of them, they don't like to come. So that is a kind of feeling which students, I feel, they have. What we need to first of all do is that we need to develop a system inside our educational institutions that the students, they like coming inside, they like staying inside, they like, learning. And that will become possible only in case our content which we are providing to them becomes practically relevant, is applicable in the real life scenario, okay, and is, delivered to them in such a manner that they find it interesting. We need to develop that kind of ambience. So first of all, I think we need to develop a kind of system which is liked by the students, which is student friendly, and then you start coming to the classes, and then onwards we can focus on to the other parts which can, help us in taking our education system to greater levels. And with these words, I would like to extend my thanks once again to Dr. Rashmi, Dean Management Faculty, and Dr. Ajay Kumar, Director of the Institute. Thanks a lot for, associating with me with this intellectual discourse. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Ravinder, sir, you have given a very precious information to us, and it will be very enlightened. Thank you very much, sir.
I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. H.K., Professor of Commerce at Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. He completed his tenure as founder Vice Chancellor at Maharishi University of Information Technology, Lucknow. He has more than 35 years of experience in teaching and research. He has many books and research papers to his credit. He has been nominated as President, Indian Association for Management Development in 2016. I would like to invite you to enlighten our audience.
I would like to congratulate the Technica Institute of Advanced Studies, which is the NAAC A grade institution, and its Dean, Professor Rasmi Gujarati, and the Director, Dr. Ajay Kumar, for hosting this national webinar on the most pertinent topic, National Education Policy 2020. My bosom friend, Professor V.K. Srotia, Professor Jasween Kaur, Dr. Durgesh Tripathi, Professor Ravinder Singh, and other dignitaries. This year 2020 will be always remembered for three specific events in context to our country. Number one, COVID-19. Number two, ANBA, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And number three, this National Education Policy 2020. From my viewpoint, these two, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and National Education Policy, are complementary. Whatever is specific loss, the entire globe in general and India in particular has suffered due to this COVID-19, which is more than the First or the Second World War or the global financial crisis. Our government of India has made a serious attempt for take-off stage, and I do hope the year 2022 will become the turning point for our Indian economy and Indian educational system. You are aware, the year 1986, when I started my academic career, that year was for new education policy led by our ex-late Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. After 34 years, in this year, we have found the National Education Policy. I would like to inform you, the word is not new, national. And government has made a serious attempt to provide the national flavor to this education policy. It's not simply changing the name as new, it's national education policy. I must say it is der aaye durust aaye. Although we took 34 years, but somehow the holistic approach is there in this policy. Be sure it is a policy. And as management student, I would like to make alert. Policy is a planning tool. Policy is always a planning tool. Planning is the first function of the manager. But the most important function is controlling. And controlling always thinks about implementation part. This policy is simply planning. And we have to think in the same way. When Planning Commission was converted to Niti Aayog, we as academicians have to think about the implementation part. If there is accurate implementation, only then the success will be. Otherwise, if there is defective implementation, probably there is lesser chance of success. I am going to judge in few minutes from 4 parameters. And for that purpose, I am providing word area. A-R-E-A. Here A is academic, R is research, E is extension, and lastly A is administration. If this policy is successful from 4 parameters, number 1, academic, number 2, research, number 3, extension, number 4, administration, then we can judge the real success. Number 1 point, academic. Friends, when Gurukula philosophy was prevailing to our country, the Gurukula system of education, Nalanda and Taxila universities which were the world's best universities in the globe, on the pattern of Oxford and Cambridge. We started numerous universities to this country, and universities are around 1,000. I would like to quote the statement of ex-president Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. When he was delivering the convocation address to my university, Banaras Hindu University, it was his general statement that none of the Indian university is in the best 100 universities of the globe. It is a paradox. On one hand, 1,000 universities are continuing, combining central, state, private, distance mode, deemed all the universities. But none of the Indian universities in the best 100 universities of the globe. Friends, I am raising a serious objection. This ranking is based on educational ranking. And we have to think about value-based education. If Indian universities are simply providing education, it has no meaning at all. You must think about the value-based education. Education supported by ethics, morality, character building, nation building. If you will start the value-based educational ranking, our Indian universities will be in the top 5 universities of the world. This national education policy is basically focusing on value-based educational system. What they have thought, there is one word, Parakh, P-A-R-A-K-H. And what is that? Performance assessment, review and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. The purpose is holistic development. Our students should never think against our country. Otherwise, the existence of university will be in danger. This education policy is going to focus on the holistic development, Parakh. Professor Karamjeet was talking about 4 years UG program. Friends, In this 4-year program, exit will be at various levels. After 1 year certificate course, 2 years diploma course, 3 years the bachelor degree course, and after 4 years, multidisciplinary bachelor's program. It's good, we must praise it. By and large, this 4-year course will focus on research culture. I have given the word area. Number 2 is R, research. Friends, ex-HRD minister, now the ministry name is Education Ministry. It's good, we must praise it. Ex-HRD Minister Professor Murli Manohar Joshi, who was my colleague at University of Allahabad, he was normally criticizing our research, that our Indian researches are acceptable to the global level 0.1%. I'm not saying 1%, 0.1%. By and large, you people are writing the essay and saying it's the research paper. You are writing the article and you are claiming it's the research paper. You are writing the essay and you are saying it's the research thesis. Let us think about converting this essay writing into the empirical research. There must be social justification. And I'm very much sure this national education policy, and especially through NRF, National Research Foundation, will convert the entire culture of research of this country. If UG program will be having a 4 years program, 1 year should be focused to the research. In master's program, 2nd year should be focused to the research. I must praise the word SEZ, S-E-Z. We as student of commerce, management and economics are aware about the word SEZ, which was a special economic zone. But this policy is saying is special educational zone. Swaminathan committee talked about the special agricultural zone. And this policy is saying is special educational zone. If Indira Gandhi National Tribal University is focusing for the tribal development, if Indira Gandhi National Open University is focusing for the open system of education, if my BHU is focusing about the value-based education, every university must decide the USP. Your specific nature should be there. You must focus on that. In this policy, third word, the extension activities. In this period of Corona, I am sitting at Varanasi, which is the oldest living city of the entire world. But we are connected virtually online. It will also groom the online system of education, extension activities. But for that purpose, internet penetration is rather more important. Government should think about enhancing the internet facilities to the rural area. With your permission, I would like to add here the word BSP. I belong to Uttar Pradesh. I'm not talking about political party. I have no political affiliation. If I am saying the word BSP, Bijli, Sadak, Pani. If in the rural area we can provide the system of electricity, Sadak, roads, and water supply, Bijli, Sadak, Pani, only then the real growth will occur. For the success of this national education policy also, let us think about the infrastructure. Otherwise, how can you groom the colleges located to the rural area? And lastly, friends, administration. With your permission, I would like to say, it happens, good teachers are poor administrators. Rarely it happens that you are a successful teacher and you are a successful vice chancellor or registrar or head or dean or director. Friends, from my angle, AC doesn't mean air condition. AC means any condition. Today, my laptop is not working, but through this mobile, I am contacting with you. You must learn about it. This policy is also focusing on administration, educational governance. I am very much sure that this policy, with the pious intentions of the academic world, will make a paradigm shift for transforming the India from developing nation to the developed nation. Education is the most important weapon for development. And this national education policy, which is going to focus on mother tongue education, the engineering education, you cannot groom without mother tongue. In this country, we were teaching the management as well as the medical as well as the engineering, by and large focusing on English medium. You must learn from Chinese experiment. If this national education policy is talking about mother tongue, I must praise it. It will really groom various disciplines. Friends, we have to learn. In one hand, there must be computer. Another hand, Ramcharitmanas and Gita. This national education policy will really combine the traditional knowledge with the modern knowledge. It will actually focus on Hindustani style of management. It will really develop the Hindustani style of management. Only then this COVID-19, which the entire world is facing serious threat, ultimately I'm providing a word from SWAT to TOWS. You are aware about SWOT, and I do believe into converting TOWS. This TOWS is converting the threats into opportunity and weaknesses into strength. Not only Prime Minister is saying from Apda to opportunity. Friends, we can also do it. We have to convert the weaknesses into strength, threats into opportunity. This national education policy, really, what they have said, Meru, multi-dimensional education and research university. You come to my university, we are starting our university from the primary level, and you students who have passed primary level, secondary level and higher level and research from my university, they are having the philosophy of Madan Mohan Malviya. Only then we can think about the holistic development. I congratulate the Technia Institute of Advanced Studies, Delhi, for hosting this conference, and I'm thankful that you have given me chance to interact with you people, and especially finding my bosom friend, Professor V.K. Srotia, Professor Karamjeet, Professor Ravinder Singh, Durgesh ji and others, virtually, otherwise for the last 7-8 months, there is no chance to meet directly. But somehow, through this virtual mode, we are in the position to interact. I congratulate, and I wish that Lord Vishwanath will bless all of you to get rid of this COVID-19, and the entire world will be really healthy in coming future, and especially in the year 2021. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Professor H.K. Singh, sir, you have highlighted a lot of things, and give definition has been given by you of the area. You have focused on the academic, research, extension and administration, and to focus on the holistic. Thank you very much, sir. You have given your precious time.
If you look at the research, I was just reading an article in HBR only last week. See, Tesla company is having a driverless vehicle. Now, General Motors, they have a meeting that, that whatever research they are saying, that driverless vehicle is there. Now, they are making research that what are the ethical issues in that. I mean, that you are traveling in a car. One person is sitting in the car. And the machine, driverless machine, car, is to save 5 people. The question is that whether that car is to be, tuned in such a way that he is to save the person riding on the car or 5 person on the road. This is dilemma issues there. Then see the type of research going on. Research I was reading that there is a pregnant lady, traveling, coming before your car. Now computer will read that as a 1 person or 2 person. See the mindset. See how they are behaving. I'm not saying that we are much more ahead of these people, but for that if we really want to do a capable type of research, we have to take care of all these things. We talk about teachers' education. Now, if you were to point a school teacher, school teacher, you need a MEd courses, education courses. But what about the university teachers? They pass out MCOM and we all know PhD. There's a mushroom growth of PhD degrees. Now, my question is that we have to, sensitize the people before entering them. And then you need a proper, regulatory system of higher education institutions. Yes, this is very good. UGC have come out with 4 parameters. That needs to be, because council is there, politicians there, that needs to be taken into account. Then most important thing is that effective governance and leadership. Now that there is so much talk about board of governors. My question is that board of governors is fine. The idea is to provide the autonomy to the institution. Now, what type of autonomy we're talking about? When the finance, that in the government institutions is in the hand of government. What type we're talking about? See, autonomy doesn't mean only framing the syllabus. This is not autonomy. Autonomy is something more than that, because once you are talking to the people, that you need a particular type of autonomy. My question to all my friends is not question, but I am little bit thinking about this issue, that why IIT and IIMs, they have carved a niche for themselves in the global scenario, in the global arena. Why? Because they generated the money. They, in a way, you can say, have their autonomy. What type of persons they are to, recruit, salary they are to give them. So this type of autonomy, if it is given, then we can call it is effective governance. Otherwise, leadership, nominating somebody, on the board, it will not going to serve any purpose. I am strongly in favor of promotion of regional languages. Yes, it should be promoted. But at the same time, see, this is something very, very essential. And so much knowledge, treasure knowledge is available in India. I think that this is the area where every institution must think over. We need to promote the regional languages, not the need of regional education. We have to dig out. See, you have to dig out at what type of information is available in India. What even there is untapped, even in medicines and other areas also there, that we can. So these are the. I couldn't speak on national education policy for more time. I think that many more learned speaker is there with us, and I could see the faces of all friends. Atya Singh, Shrotriya ji, Jasween Durgesh Tripathi ji, all are good. Ravinder ji, both they are all good friends. And my thanks once again to Dr. Ajay and particularly to Dr. Rashmi Gujarati, because Rashmi approached me. So I wish that all my friends who are in the panel, I could get the opportunity soon to meet them personally.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You have highlighted a lot of things about the new education policy, and we hope that we will understand about that. Thank you very much, sir.
Now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Shrotriya, Professor, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. He recently authored a book on human well-being and policy in South Asia. His research domain includes happiness, well-being, and strategy at individual, organizational, and global level. He has various publications to his credit. He has been a member of many high-powered committees of UGC, ICSSR, public service commissions, and other agencies. I request you, sir, to please share your valuable knowledge with the audience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashmi and Dr. Ajay Kumar ji, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my thought. In fact, I was telling that I need to go at 12:45. It is getting 12:45, so I will be winding up maybe within 2-3 minutes. So nice means to see all good friends there. I saw Professor Karamjit ji, and we have been talking about different issues at different forums. Thank you very much. Let me just come to the context that people have been talking about. The director, Dr. Ajay Kumar was talking, Dr. Karamjit Singh ji, and Professor H.K. Singh ji. I have maybe a little different take on all the things, and I say, I think someone was talking about that execution of the policy is the most important thing. Research shows that 80% of the strategies fail because they are not executed well. They are not implemented well. Policies sound very good. This policy is at a right time, overdue time, but I think we need to praise the government for taking such an initiative and coming up with this policy. It gives a lot of rooms, creates a lot of rooms for flexibility. I have a long discussion on policy at different forums. What I just share in the brief time that I have with you is that the policy is in the right direction of developing thinking, which is the key. In the wake of last say around 40 years, in the wake, especially after globalization, we became so much skill oriented that our whole focus became very, very objective. I think we need to look back, and this policy gives you that scope of looking back and assimilating your knowledge bases in your own language. And that is a great initiative because in our country, in our side of the geography, if we look at things, we find that people are thinking in their mother tongue and converting it into the language of English. For that, of course, it sounds very nice, but the biggest challenge before the agencies would be, before all the academics, especially for all of us, would be to provide the literature in Indian regional languages. And that leaves a big, there is a big vacuum on that. And I think all of us have to be committed towards developing literature in different languages. And that is going to dominate in the times to follow, as you see, as it happened in China and as China is competing with. The great initiative that government commits about is that they are going to increase the allocation from 3% to 6%. This is something which is great. In fact, in the book that I authored, we have been talking about it, we gave cases, and we said that until we increase the GDP allocation on education, we cannot convert, the part of the country as an educated lot. And as Professor Kaunji was telling, that the focus of the policy is to increase GER. And I think if government has this commitment of investing huge money, increasing from 3%, little less than 3% to 6%, this is a big leap. And ever since this, the time that this policy comes into implementation by the year 2022, I think if this happens, we will be in good hands, and our future generations will have a better future, and we will be able to make our grounds very, very sound. I get reminded of Mr. Gurucharan Das, who is a renowned author and columnist who has written many books. When he was a student at Harvard, he told that when he came back, the most important thing when he was studying business there, the most important thing which contributed to his growth was the two subjects that he studied there. And those two subjects were given as open courses, as a choice courses, and though they were philosophy and Sanskrit. And this contributed to his growing. And I tell you, the experiments that we have had with CBCS ever since 2009, this is around 11 years of CBCS implementation. I think if we learn from experiences and put the policy in the right perspective, we will have a very good future. Maybe I will have my take on later sometime with all of you. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to voice my thoughts. Thank you, Rashmi ji. Thank you, Professor H.K. Singh. Thank you, the organizers and everybody for giving me a patience hearing. I think this is how it's destined to be. Thanks a lot for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Bye, and enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And I know that you have to go somewhere else, and you have given us your very important time, and you have focused on the new education policy. Thank you very much, sir.